All right, what's up guys? So finally getting around to incorporating a video type that I've been wanting to do for a little while now. That is detailing videos. So I kind of think of detailing as like the fifth spoke of video types for this channel. Got mods, got maintenance, car talk, car shows, and now detailing. And so I thought I would just share the process that I go through for different aspects of keeping my car clean, engine bay, wheels, maintenance washes, decontamination washes, interior, all that stuff. So for the first one, I thought I would just kind of keep it easy and do wheels. So today I'm gonna go through the process that I use to clean my wheels. If you're new to the channel, I have a 2017 BMW M3 with a competition package, which is great because it means it has the ever so beautiful BMW 666M wheels, but it also means that it has the BMW 666M wheels, and they are kind of tough to clean or keep clean. A little bit of a tedious process, but not too terrible. But a little bit more involved than a standard 5-spoke wheel or something like that. So, little disclaimer though, I am by no means an expert in detailing, kind of more of like an enthusiast slash hobbyist. But pretty much everything that I've learned about modern day detailing, I have picked up from either Pan the Organizer or Matt Morman from Obsessed Garage. And likewise, as Matt Morman always says, honor the source. So generally, things that I've picked up from him or his channel, I generally try to reciprocate the thank you by buying from Obsessed Garage wherever possible. So usually the stuff that I get either comes from Obsessed Garage, Car Supply Warehouse, or Amazon. And as always, all the products that I talk about or list or anything like that, I will leave a link to in the description below. So a couple quick thoughts on detailing before we get started. So I tend to think of detailing on the importance level of almost that of like maintenance. So like, if you're gonna really kind of indulge in the ownership experience and, go through the time and care of maintaining and even modifying your car, then you probably should keep it as clean, right? And one of the things that I really love about detailing is sort of the gradation level, or being able to level up of your technique and the kind of results that you get. Like you can always be a better mechanic by expanding, your knowledge of different components of a car and how to take them apart and put them back together again and work on them and everything. But when it comes to like a process, like how you would change oil or something, like there's not a whole lot of room in that process for improvement. Like you can get faster at it. You can maybe reduce, being messy, like spilling oil everywhere, but it's kind of a linear process that generally has the exact same end result, which is having changed the oil in your car versus, detailing, you can get better at how you apply your technique. So if you're talking about polishing, like there's always ways to improve how you can get better results from your polishing technique, different products that you use, your operational efficiency. Like I went to school for operations management, and that is all about organizational efficiency. And so, I like trying to figure out how to get more efficient with that process without sacrificing quality. All right, so with that, let's get into the different tools and products that I use for a wheel cleaning and then get to the actual cleaning. Again, this is not really a DIY so much as it is just kind of sharing my process and techniques and things that I've picked up from the aforementioned channels that I've learned a lot from. And I don't know, maybe you'll find something in there that you might be able to apply or come across a product that you haven't heard of before and be able to incorporate it into your process. All right, so let's go through the bucket here. So before I mention that though, make sure you have a wheel bucket. Wheel bucket is always good to have. And grit guard. So wheel bucket with a grit guard. You can get a cheap grit guard for like 10 bucks. Definitely want to have those so that the tools that you use aren't sitting in dirty wheel water, right? All right, so let's go through the tools real quick here. So starting with the Easy Detail Brush. I actually have the large and small version of these. So this is mainly for just kind of getting the surface stuff off the inside of the wheel, inside the drum, and then the outside of the tire and inside the wheel well. So we usually hit all three of those areas with this. I was using this exclusively for all of the inside the wheel drum and in between the calipers and stuff like that. But I changed that with another one, which I'll get to in a second. The smaller Easy Detail Brush is good for getting in between the little circular areas in between where the wheel studs are, as well as I also kind of hit the corners, like the tight V-angled corners of all the spokes where they meet around the wheel drum. That's an area where you could just use like a cloth or a mitt or something like that, and maybe like the corner of your hand to get in between. But sometimes I find that gets overlooked, those areas, and so I'll generally hit that, just go in between with this. Now, the only thing about this is that these bristles aren't exactly the softest in the world, so I try to be a little gentle with them just so there's not excessive marring on the wheels. Another thing is that both of them, and I've read people caution about this, They both have like these rubber tips on the end. Now these things are over 2 years old. I've had them, the ones I've been using for over 2 years now, but they can come off sometimes. So if you have these, you definitely want to make sure that the rubber tips are on them, because underneath of these are metal. And so if for some reason that they fall off and you use them, you can really scrape up the inside of your wheel. Now, as sort of an augmented tool to the larger easy detail brush, this is the Incredibrush. Now, I really like this thing. Really, I actually love its sibling product, which is the Incredipad. It's the greatest car washing pad ever. But this thing, I'm still trying to like figure out if this really belongs in the workflow. I wanted to try this out. Now, there's two different models of this. This is the flat one, and then they make a regular round one. And so I got this because it is much softer. The padding on this is super soft. It holds a lot of water and product, so it's really good for going, again, more detailed or more thoroughly in the inside of the wheel, and in particular in between the calipers. But even that, like, even though this is the flat version, it really is kind of tough. There's not a whole lot of space between the calipers and the wheel, and so there's a bit of resistance trying to get this in there, but you know, it is a pretty good product. It's definitely some overlapping between this and the larger easy detail brush, so I'm still trying to work that out, but for now, this will be staying in the mix. Next up, I have a boar's head detailing brush. Now this is, I mainly use this for the roundels, like getting around the roundels, the emblems, as well as in between where the lug nut bolts would go. And I also use it to get around the wheel stem. All right, next up, Lambskin wheel mitt. Now this thing is pretty amazing. I have a couple of these. And so this I kind of use in like a 3-stage process, which I'll go through in more detail when we actually get to the wheel cleaning, but mainly it's first wiping off the surface of the wheel, then kind of going around the spokes on each side, and then finally going flat in between all the spokes all the way around the wheel. Now, one thing about this, you really aren't supposed to put this through the washer and dryer, so you should clean these by hand and let them air dry. I hadn't been, and so the couple that I have that have been through the washer a lot, I noticed that the fibers come off in like clumps when I'm using them when they're wet. Not really a product defect, more of a user error, but just as a note, yeah, if you have these, if you use them, don't put them through the washer and dryer. And then finally for tools, probably my favorite one, is the Tough Shine tire brush. So this thing is, first of all, it's practically indestructible. The material that it's made out of is just rock solid, good stiff bristles for actually cleaning the tires. And then finally, they're pretty cheap. These things are like, I think like $8 or $9. So as you can see, I've had this one for over 2 years now. It's in really good condition still. So highly recommend this one for your tires. All right, now for the actual products used to do the cleaning. So for the wheels and tires, I use P&S Brake Buster. This stuff is fantastic. Usually on all these P&S products on the back, if you can dilute them, they typically say so. This one does not have a dilution ratio, but I do typically dilute this 1-to-1. Even with doing that, I go through a ton of this stuff. Now, I really want to eventually get a second foam cannon to apply this as opposed to a spray bottle. Foam cannon would be much more economical, efficient in terms of applying this at a lesser level. You go through a lot more of it when you use it in a spray bottle, but if you use this stuff, if you buy it, definitely buy the gallon size bottles and not the little individual spray bottles, because again, you just go through this stuff really, really fast, but it does a great job of wheels and tires as a cleaner. Also spray it inside the fender well, mud flaps, everything. And then for the tire dressing, Meguiar's D170 Hyper Dressing. This stuff is really great. And again, so this stuff even has on the back the different dilution levels, everything from a high gloss to a natural finish. Now the natural finish, and this is what I use, is a 4-to-1 dilution ratio, 4 parts water to 1 part product. And you know, I use the same stuff for the engine cleaner as well as the tires. And what I really like about that, the natural finish, is that it's more of like a good sheen to the finish. I don't understand, I'm not a fan of really glossy tires, you know? I just don't think that tires are something that should be like ultra glossy. I think it's like a distraction. It takes your eye away from the car, and it's something that I think should be more of like a nice sheen to it, a nice satin finish, but definitely not glossy. It does a really good job also with that same level in the engine bay in terms of all the plastics for, again, not making those overly glossy, but giving it a good finish to it, right? So we'll start with the power washer. Thoughts and everything like that on that equipment to come in another video, but we'll start with the power washer. Get all of the surface grime and dirt and brake dust and everything off the wheel, get the tires really good up in the wheel well, and then we will get started with the cleaning. All right, so first up, spray this stuff on. So I usually let that sit for like 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how dirty the wheels are. Not terrible, not like it just, you know, got done a long road trip or something. So standard amount of dirt on it. So usually let it sit for about 2 minutes, and then start with the first step, which is the inner drums with the Easy Detail brush. All right. So usually just kind of go in here very lightly, just to get any surface stuff off. I used to go in between the calipers and everything like that, but now that I have the Incredibrush, I'll save that for that. And then get the wheels real good. And then the inside of the fender well. All right. Next up, all right, then the Incredipad, and again, or the Incredibrush. And again, this is where I'll try to go a little bit more thorough in the inside the wheel. Now, right here, again, this is where it's, even with the flat one, it is quite a bit of resistance to really get between the bottom edge of the caliper, but it's not hurting anything. It's just, takes a little extra force. Another thing that I do like about the Incredibrush over the Easy Detail brush is that this is way better like spring to it. So this is like coiled metal, and you can bend this thing as much as you want. Well, maybe not as much as you want, but you can bend it to a pretty decent degree and it will retain its form. Whereas the Easy Detail brushes, like, they can easily get bent out of shape, and then you have to kind of flex them back in. A little bit of annoying, but it's kind of dirty. All right, now the small Easy Detail brush. So again, for these, I'll go in between like these holes here, in between the wheel studs, and then in these corners in particular, just because they're at a sharp angle. And you can get in here with the edge of the wheel mitt, but it's still a little tough. And then periodically, respray a little bit of brake buster on here. Get in these corners. Now again, this, I used to go all around, like I would trace the inside here and all of the edges here. But that is one of the areas where I feel like I was really kind of doubling up services between that and the wheel mitt, because I do the same thing with the wheel mitt and I'm pretty thorough with that, so I don't think that's necessary with this, and if I can save a little bit of potential marring, then I will. All right, so now the little bristle brush, and so this will just kind of get around the edge of the roundel here. And then I'll kind of go in between where all of the wheel studs are, because it's really hard to get in there with anything else, especially now that the wheel studs are in there. Like, these come out into here, and so before the lug nuts, this whole space was open, so you could kind of, you know, get in here with like maybe the edge of the easy brush or the mitt or something, but still, it's just easier to use this brush. And I usually will also go back through the areas next to it where I already hit with the small detailing brush, but whatever, it's all good. And then finally the wheel stem. So get in between underneath here, because that's hard to get through with anything else. And there you go. And again, this, I also used to hit these corners really quickly, but trying to be more efficient. All right, next up, Lambskin wheel mitt. Now this one, when it's dry, you really, like, this softens up greatly, wonderfully. This softens up terrifically. I don't know. There's some adjective of how great this softens up once it gets really wet. So you might actually be better off probably pre-soaking this a little bit just so it softens up, because again, it's super stiff when you first get it out, but can't tell you how many times I was doing that, spraying it, and then like I just didn't have a good enough grip and it would just shoot right off my hand. Had to go get another one. So, and then periodically, might just spray off some of the surface stuff because it has a lot of dirt on it, and on this step, I'm gonna kind of, you know, work into the wheels a little bit more, so give it a quick pre-rinse. A little bit more. All right, so before I mention the 3 steps with this, so first I'll kind of just go through and wipe the face of the wheel through all the spokes, and then here. So just every front facing part of the wheel, and then around the entire rim. All right, then I'll kind of go through, especially now that I don't do the brush in between all of these, I'll like get really thorough. And see, this is what I was talking about with getting in these corners. So with my hand angled right here, like I could probably get right in here pretty well, but again, because of the weird angle here, I just use the brush as an extra step, but kind of go through each section, just kind of wrap my hand around the entire spoke. This is already loosened up quite a bit. And then finally, the 3rd step is I'll just go flat in between all the spokes. All right. Yeah, after the first use, this thing loosens up substantially. All right, then last step, tough shine brush for the wheels. All right, just kind of go back and forth all the way around the wheel. And then also on the top. So this is easier to do in the front because I still have some wheel gap here, which I will be taking care of soon with some springs, but in the meantime, still have really bad wheel gap here. So this is easy to get under here, but in the back so I have 15mm spacers, and even though I have stock suspension, the wheel setup in the back, it is really difficult to get anything beyond the face of the wheel with this brush. But if you bend the bristles enough, you can kind of just get enough to get maybe like the front quarter edge here. But generally try to get as much as I can around the tire. Like on the top of the tire. Not all the way back, but enough to get more than just the face. Now, usually you should also roll your car forward a little bit because we're not getting anything under here. Probably not gonna do that for this demonstration, but generally not a bad idea to roll the wheel forward and get the part of the tire that you're gonna miss, especially when you do the tire shine at the very end. So. All right, that is one wheel down, 3 to go. So just spray this off now. All right guys, so we're finally on the last step. Car's all cleaned up. And so now I'm just gonna wipe down the rest of the water that the leaf blower didn't get and apply the tire dressing. So have my Meguiar's D170 diluted 4:1. Have a bunch of these sort of rattier microfiber towels that I only use for wheels and some engine bay components. So usually I'll just wipe down the rest of the water. That's kind of just little spots here and there that are on the wheel. And then the one thing that I don't love about the competition wheels is on the bottom here. So it has this channel that goes around, and on the inside, despite your best efforts to, blow all that water out with a leaf blower, there still will be a little bit of water that pulls up down here. So you kind of have to soak that up with the towel. And then finally, to apply the tire dressing, I use this ball brush. Learned about this and get it through Obsessed Garage. And actually it was meant to be a interior detailing brush, but it turns out that it works great for applying tire dressing to your tires. So before that I was using the longer version of that boar's head brush, but this is way better. Bristles are insanely soft and it just covers more of that surface area. And a quick note about covering the surface area too. So I'll spray the hyper dressing directly on the brush, wipe it all the way around, and then wipe off the excess with the microfiber towel. But the one thing that I can't stand is like when you see tires that have been cleaned where only the very front facing part of the tire has been wiped down and there's like that clear division between the front facing part and the flat part. Now, obviously, as soon as this touches pavement, it's gonna get dirty, but I like to try to blend the side to at least a little bit round the top so it's not such like a hard line of, clean versus still dirty part of the tire when you kind of look at it from an angle. And especially when you see like super glossy tires and then there's that like razor sharp edge from the hyper glossy part to, the matte, flat, dirty part. So anyway, so I'll apply the dressing and then kind of wipe that down a little bit and try to blend it in to the top. Not too far, but just enough where, again, if you're looking down at it, it's not so obvious that one part's clean and one part's dirty. So, all right, let's finish up. So, not a whole lot of water left on here, but usually just kind of go through. Obviously, usually the top parts still have a little bit of water, but it's a quick process. And then try to get up all the water that's on the bottom here. All right, so then I'll just spray the hyper dressing all over the brush real good. And then just kind of wipe all around here. All right, and finally, take the rag and just kind of wipe off the excess, and you're kind of also working it into the tire a little bit. And you'll kind of notice that, like, if you've not done this before and not used any kind of tire dressing for your tires, you'll notice that after a couple of times doing this, like, it takes a few times to really start to kind of work its way in to the tire, but over time it does a much better job of kind of soaking in almost. And then I'll go all around, get the very edge of the wheel, get a clean part of the towel. And that's it. So again, really not that shiny, but just enough to kind of, you know, brighten it up a little bit, kind of give it a nice sheen. But it's, you know, again, from the eye, it's looking up at this angle, it's not such a, you know, clear division of the dirty part of the tire to the clean part. All right, hopefully not a lens flare this time. Sorry about that. I went to go check that footage from the last shot and saw the big dumb lens flare behind me that didn't seem like it was there when I was initially setting it up. Anyway, so that is my wheel detailing process. Again, I've been looking to incorporate these types of videos into the channel for a while now. So hope you found something in this video helpful. Again, I'll link all products and tools and stuff in the description below in case there's anything that you saw that you want to pick up. And yeah, so give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.